You look so dead inside right now. You look dead inside. The only okay, I'm going to stream if we watch something, we react to something instead. I'm always dead inside. What do you mean? Death and me makes one. I ain't scared of death. I look dead inside because death is always creeping in. You're always kind of dead. Ain't that just pretty? Yeah, do you guys like have videos? I'll still stream if you guys have like things to watch. So do we have like a thing? Do we have like a winner of like what we're going? 1 sec. Otherwise, we're just going to watch some Poppy stuff, okay? Because I love Poppy. She's my new fave.
Inferno Dragon Evolution is here, baby. This is the card out. What? Spoilers?
Cock!
See what it's all about. Alright. We got Abdot helping me out today. We're in the new arena. This,
You better win,
kinda
dude.
Crazy, actually.
You better win.
Kinda looks like Pepper's Playhouse Part 2, if I'm being honest.
What?
Alright. Let's see what this new schmuck does. So it's a 2-card cycle.
Am I really going to watch some other YouTubers?
Cycle, it means it's pretty broken from my experience, which is great because that means I can play a cycle dick and I control with the card all season.
A cycle dick?
That's going to be fun. Hopefully, come on, please let the mechanic be fun. Don't let it be some lame shit. Alright, I'm almost back to it now. Next cycle.
Why is he in his kitchen?
Eye drag. Yeah, I would love
it's
for
only
a great month
8
of
minutes.
trolling. I mean, Evo Witch.
I don't even play that game.
That was fun, but I don't know. Like, there's only like it was more so just a broken card. Like, you can just play skeletons and it just heals a shit ton. All right, this is it. Inferno Dragon.
This is it, guys. I'm playing Clash. Oh, this is it. I hope this trend is going to be great.
Nope.
Guys.
Okay.
Ooh. I love Clash.
Okay.
Damn, eat in my tower.
Is the charge?
PogChamp, right? Guys.
Like how far is
PogChamp?
Is that? Oh, what?
What?
Okay, so it lasts.
PogChamp, guys.
Oh my fucking
Donate
God.
to me.
Use distract with a couple cycle cards, right?
Cock.
Stick a big monk in front of my Inferno Dragon. It's just gonna.
It's so bad. Thank you for reposting. I almost consider getting a job. When you made a post announcing a video will be at 3 p.m., I instantly set my alarm. My log has been brimming with elixir for the past few hours in anticipation. I was rapidly refreshing your page until Inferno Dragon Evolution came up, and when it came on screen, I did too. Let's just watch. Actually, it got a bit your style, you know. You should try getting the mustache. Maybe it will.
This taught me a lot.
Please tell me your sources. Before saying anything, say the sources. Percy, is that you? He's the techno noise. I was like, oh, it's an NPC stream. I got pranked into an NPC stream.
Yeah, he's probably fine.
So was brought to you by the number 3, which is the number.
I'm the number 3. I sponsor this shit. I am 3. Okay. What now?
Gonna deflect everything, and then you tornado everything into the Inferno Dragon, and
what do
it's
we
just
watch?
gonna one-shot everything because it's gonna have maximum charge, and that's what I'm
My
thinking.
YouTube recommendation is boring. My YouTube recommendation is so boring. Back to Ken. Back to Ken. Back to Ken. The Psychology of Liberalism.
Has been
that seems like boring. Brian Eno. Oh, we could watch Brian Eno. I like Brian Eno.
It's like, okay, well,
let's read the comments. You'll have a DI full time.
It's easy.
The comments are better than the video. Ken is the type of guy to go in a public restroom, climb over the door, and say, "Cut him with his Hands down! As Ken finishes the last of his cinnamon whiskey, he drunkenly jiggles himself fireball value before breaking down into tears. Time to pass the phone to the left hand. Thank God I was able to leave the basement. Goblin King starts yapping. Goblin King stops yapping. Goblin King grabs the baby oil. What? Goblin King. Oh, Ken. I saw you play Clash. It lit up my world. You let me bash. And my toes did curl. Evolution was crazy. It had bribing me. My elixir leaked. For once, I felt like I was living. Must been the win.
Play a cycle dick, and I control with the card all season, and that.
Yeah, I heard dick too. That's funny.
It's 1940.
3 hours!
A111 bomber ascends, flanked on either side by two of Germany's main fighter aircraft, the single-engine Messerschmitt Bf-109 and the twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf-110. It's a formation that Germany used to great effect in mainland Europe and intends to do the same in taking Britain. The three planes fly confidently, knowing that the Royal Air Force...
That's like history nerd shit. But not the good one. The one that's like just like ooh funny, hee. Am I crazy? Yes.
You know, you and I have participated in political movements and leftist spaces. Don't you feel like sometimes you're in a room with like a lot of really fragile eggs who can't deal with actual confrontation or contradiction because if they bump up against each other, they think they're going to crack? That, we need to discuss why left politics has no popular appeal, why it gets ignored by liberalism.
I lost my role in the presidency because
why we're...
The cancel culture got me, okay?
How are we living, boys? My team is going to build a wall, and we're
League
making
of
the
Legend.
team pay for it. How are we
League
doing?
of Legend.
We're playing AP Briar. I pulled in some of my boys to build all terrain here. So Taliar, Jarvan, you have
Is that you,
Nibby
Percy?
W and
Is that you?
Trundle E. Their team does.
Yes, League of Legend. Wait, I want the lore. I want some lore. Amumu lore. Amumu lore. I want to learn the Amumu lore. Oh. Tantrum. That's me. I'm Amumu.
Hello everyone.
This is my
and
story.
Welcome. Today is the day we finally talk about the last member of the entire Shuriman story. So without further ado, let's talk
banger
about
lore video.
the curse of Amumu.
Next Rich. Oh yeah, it's that guy. Wait, Tyler London? I love Tyler.
Just like with Kindred, most people don't know where Amumu came from or if he's even real.
He's
The
real!
legends about him roaming the deserts of Shurima vary from city to city. But those who claim to have seen him describe Amumu as a small child wrapped in bandages, spreading death and disease with touch. One story talks about a young boy born into a ruling family of Shurima. This family was affected by a disease that corrupted flesh with hideous speed. The young boy was quarantined in his chambers in an attempt to save him from this corruption. It was there where he befriended a servant girl who heard his cries through the walls. Being his only link to the outside world, she told him stories about her grandmother's mystic powers. One morning, the girl told Amumu that the last of his brothers passed away, making him the Emperor of Shurima. Saddened that he had to bear this news alone, the girl unlocked his door and ran inside to confront him face to face. Amumu threw his arm around her, but as they touched, he fell back, realizing that he had condemned her to the same terrible fate as his family. Upon the girl's death, her grandmother placed a twisting blight on the young emperor, because in her mind, Amumu coldly murdered the girl. A second tale whispers of another crowned prince. this time one full of cruelty. In this telling, Amumu was crowned Emperor of Shurima at a young age, and convinced that he was blessed by the sun, he forced everyone to worship him as a god. One day he learned about the Eye of Angor, an ancient relic buried in the sands said to grant eternal life to whoever looked upon it with unflagging heart. He hunted the treasure for years with
Why
a lot of
want
slaves
to
who
be
carried it through
immortal
catacombs,
when your life
sacrificing
is
themselves
dead,
to traps
dude?
so the emperor could continue.
I'm
Finally,
sorry,
Amumu
you don't
found
want to
the
be
giant
immortal
doors
when
containing
that's your
the
life.
artifact. With
That
brute
seems
force, the
fucked.
slaves broke into the chambers and Amumu rushed in, determined to look into the Eye of Angor. His slaves used this chance and sealed the entrance behind him. Some say that the
Oh, he
child
sealed
emperor
him.
endured in the darkness for years, his loneliness driving him to insanity and causing him to claw at his own skin, which he was forced to wrap in bandages. His
Oh,
life
he
was
was-
extended by the power of the eye as he
He was
thought about his
alone.
past decisions. But the gift was double-edged sword, for he was cursed to remain forever alone. Another story of Amumu tells of the first and last Yordle ruler of Shurima, who believed in the goodness of the human heart. To prove his detractors wrong, he swore an oath to live as a beggar until he made one true friend. Though thousands walked by him, no one stopped to offer a helping hand. Eventually Amumu died of a broken heart, but his death was not the end, for some say he still roams the deserts, trying to restore his faith in humanity. These stories lead us to the one told recently by Khaldun. He was an old storyteller, distracting children and adults from the harshness of Shurima's deserts. His story started with a young man entering a hidden tomb. The man had children to feed and wife to please.
No, I mean, it was like a lone little
In the past, MMOs were regarded as the godfather.
guy. Has the most lore? Well, I mean, was a lot of lore. Wait, actually? What about Vagar? Can I get Vagar lore? Vagar lore. League of Legends. Why is Vagar evil? Yeah. Why is he like a little silly evil guy?
When are you gonna make a vid on Vagar? Or don't you can choose? This video isn't Vagar but okay. Maybe the next one. Hi Necrit me again, I'm just waiting for your Vagar video.
Yes,
When are you
we're
going to
waiting
make
for
Vagar?
Vagar, dude.
I mean Nico is cool and all but Vagar. PLS. PLS. PLS.
Many as the best story of 2018, and for a good reason. Even I would have it really high up on my list, have I had the time to make the list. And don't blame it on me, someone had to bake you Christmas cookies. But after a long wait, we'll finally have a look at the Master of Evil. Vygar's character can be summed up by one of his lines.
I am evil! Stop laughing!
There is no doubt in my mind that the writers tailored his new story around this one-liner. He wants to be seen as the Master of Evil, while in reality he's as evil as the Sasuke meme. Oh, there is no doubt it is evil.
What?
But if we ignore it, maybe it will go away.
No, it's
Vygar
really
now has
evil.
up to date bio and a
Stop.
short story that perfectly shows his
Stop.
personality. And that
It's
short
going
story
to
alone
torture
is the
you in
reason why
hell.
his lore is so revered now. But Yordles in general got a couple of lines of new lore as well. So let's start with what you can
Is so
find.
great watching a video at the normal speed? No.
As many of you probably know, Bandle City is very well hidden in the spirit realm. Mortals usually have different opinions
So
as to where the
long.
entrance to the
I'm just going to go
and that's
sleep.
because there isn't
Oh.
just a singular gate.
You want to like
There are
listen?
gates in Bandle City spread around Runeterra.
Are you happy now?
Fact is
Dear
reflected
Lord.
on
Dear
the
Lord.
map. Every time you refresh the map of Runeterra, Bandle
At least
City
I don't see
appears
that.
in a
What?
different
I'm just
place.
enjoying every word.
And here it is important to note that the map randomly generates where it appears
Gonna be more
according to a
important.
predetermined
I'm
pattern.
gonna queue up.
In
leave.
other words,
Queue up. I'm
don't
going to
take
queue
the
up for
placing
your
for
mom.
granted. It's placed on the map randomly, but that's not to say that we don't know about a couple of places where the
Got
gateways
you.
are. Ezreal saw a gateway
Your
leading to Bandle
mom.
City in the southern Shuriman Mountains, for example. But when he
Got
returned there
you.
the next day, it
Got
was
your
closed. That's because
mom.
Yordles try to hide their gates from mortals,
your
and
mom.
only those who can read the Yordle language can open them. 3 of these gates are shown on the map of Runeterra. One is hidden in the woods. One is on the
I don't
coast of
care. I want the
Ionia,
lore. I want
because
this.
we can link
Where is
this.
he from?
The only thing we know for sure is that time passes much faster in Bandle City. People who visit this place age tremendously by the time they get back.
Oh.
So, how is Vygar tied to this place? In most places of Runeterra, Yordles aren't seen as evil creatures. Only in Piltover they seem to be quite racist towards them. But usually people spread good tales about them. One exception is the sorcerer Vygar. After the Great Darkin War, the world was left in ruins for centuries, and it felt like the only source of hope was coming from the skies above. Naturally, the scarred survivors looked to the heavens, and their study of celestial magic piqued Vygar's interest. But Vygar wouldn't settle with good enough. Seeking to become the master of celestial magic, Vygar joined the mages in the Noxai territories, and even showed them how to draw hope from the patterns in the stars, which is something you may remember from Soraka's story. But while some wanted to rebuild the world, others wanted to conquer it. This is where Mordekaiser's dark reign began. To Mordekaiser, this order of mages had little to no value. They were unskilled at war, and were no match for his battle plate. But Mordekaiser noticed who Vygar truly was. Up until now, no one questioned Vygar's origins, so no one knew who he was. Mordekaiser snatched him up in one iron gauntlet while the other mages were executed on the spot. Mordekaiser knew Vygar was a Yordle, and he knew that Yordles are crafty when it comes to magic, so he forced Vygar into using his sorceries for a dark cause. To make sure Vygar
made him evil,
Mordekaiser bound him to the physical realm, isolating him from the Bandle City, which was an effective way to torture a Yordle. Over the time he spent in prison, Vygar witnessed how Mordekaiser slowly turned into a nearly immortal being, and Vygar's own magic began to twist in response. His memory slowly faded, and he began to question why he was here. Where did he come from? Did he have a
existential
life
crisis?
When Mordekaiser was finally betrayed,
the prison goddess is mine.
Vygar was a different being. The dark magic he was forced to use was now part of him. And when he escaped, he didn't wish to take part in any war that followed. He simply wanted to regain a sense of freedom and safety. But he also chose not to turn away from evil, but to embrace it. He wanted to regain respect the only way he remembered, by dishing out terror. So he called down Fury of the Stars on all those who encountered him, or trapped them in the timeless infinities. And yet, Vygar could not quite find the same success as Mordekaiser. Certainly, the good people of Valoran did learn to fear him, to some extent.
Okay, well, he's an evil guy from a prison and now evil took over. Okay, I see.
In the situation today, this new communitarianism that was sort of the structure of the internet at the bottom of the California ideology is all about this instantaneous transformation. The thing now that people are rejecting, I think, is that in actuality, democratic forms and capitalism cannot coexist, and capitalism is eating democracy alive.
Welcome to Doomscroll.
Wow,
I'm your host,
so
Joshua
deep.
Cinderella. My returning guest is Catherine Liu, a professor of film and media studies at UC
He's
Irvine.
trying to be the
She is
Lex
author
Freeman of the
Virtue
left.
Borders, the case against
You have
the
the same attention
professional
span as the
managerial
7-year-old who has not never been on an iPad. Okay, let's watch this then, Percy. Let's watch this. We'll see who has a bad attention span. We'll see. We'll see. I'll put you in like a university class on stream. We'll see if we can like last. We'll see. You're the one that wants to be a streamer, not me.
Great ideas can come from anywhere.
To what do you attribute this emphasis on morality, specifically the word care, among white-collar professionals?
I'm still scared about talking about politics, okay?
So, D.W. Winnicott says that
Because I'm a
when
dumbass.
mothers give birth to children and human adults take care of that child, they move into a special state of being where they're vigilant and they have to care for this infant to the detriment often of themselves.
Right.
There's like this unthinking sacrifice and gift giving. We all receive that kind of care, or else we would not be alive. I mean, we're born like
I'm taking
little
notes.
children, really. We can't move our.
So I can have a better thing to say.
We
okay?
can't. We have no spinal control. Our heads go back this way if they're not supported, which is psychically and physically damaging. And so you have the holding of an infant is about this kind of intense, vigilant attentiveness that Winnicott says we move out of as the infant becomes more independent. But this intense state of care, I think, is the proper idea of using that term. We translate it, dilute it in the liberal world into caring about animals, caring about earth, caring about art, caring about social justice.
The idea of
But
caring.
that kind of care is so reduced and so reified
Society needs to
in
care.
liberal discourse today. And there's something liberating about the right and the Republicans when they're like, we don't care. We don't care.
I'm
about
not going to
recycling.
take care of you. Yeah.
We don't care about fossil fuels. We care about everyone being able to drive around freely. There's a kind of
It's like that kid is like, no, I don't need to have someone helping me take care of me. I'm a grown adult, autonomy, and I'm independent. I don't need to help you. You do yourself, right?
pleasure in the world that rejects this reduced
That's what I'm feeling with the capitalist. I don't know.
form of vigilance, this very reduced, superficial form of vigilance, very performative.
But I guess like today that caring is like just too performative and like kind of diluted, like she said. There's not a real good caring. It's just like caring to like look, oh, a virtue signaling. Oh yeah, I'm taking care of the planet without actually like doing a well plan, like have a well model of a caring parents. You know what I mean?
Of moralizing thing that happens within.
So that's the left, and it makes sense.
And I've been talking a lot about virtue, right? And it's not real virtue though. That
it's virtue seemingly like
white collar elites hoard. It's this very reduced, reified form of virtue. Like something about Christianity that is really amazing though. When you, I think I've like OD'd on the imagery, but no, if you go through the churches of Europe, you'll see this Madonna and Child is such an important like duo in Christianity, and part of it is about this realization, physicalization of the care thing.
But
right?
that's why I think right now, even if you look at the Pope and stuff like that, Christianity in somehow there's like a leftist feel to it because of that like imagery of caring and of like helping the rejects, you know. I think that part of like Christianity is like it's like too away from the ideology of like the right now, and so that's why I feel like weirdly enough like the left, there's like capitalism there or something.
I think that we
weirdly
want
enough,
to think
like
that the deity and some all-powerful being cares about us, and it's terrifying to think about that indifference. So we become in our everyday lives little gods. Now, the thing that I caring all the time about things, this liberal ideal, but I think the thing about the right, and I just watched Trump's performance. He plays the child, and the liberals play the caring, powerful, but kind of punitive mother figure, and his childishness is like, let's just enjoy.
And here I think here when you need to imagine like the ideal of like the politics, like what it means to be a leftist, what it means to be a right winger. I feel using the kid is a bit like connoted, you know. In my opinion, it's a bit too connoted. I feel the right is just at that place they want to be like the kid that want to grow up, right? And they think ditching the mother and be like a punk is like the way to go. I think
I'm going to be the circus barker. Let's just have performativity. And there's this kind of transgressive attitude that he has that's very much directed at, this owning the libs.
Yeah, it's like a adolescent or something trying to like be edgy. And he's like, fuck my parents, I can do like myself. And that spirit is still like
is like this
there's something like powerful in that too.
Who's been
let's say like the caring is
like, don't you care about you don't care about your grades?
That's it's like I don't care.
All of these things about not arriving at care and being
I don't need that care. I can take care of myself.
A kind of punitive maternal superego thing. So on the one
hand,
you have the superficial caring.
Is she a psychoanalyst?
On the other hand,
is she like a Freudian?
And you have this.
There was this dude at my school that was a big psychoanalytic guy, and like I understand, but like sometimes it felt like just a model. I don't know, Sid. I'm psychoanalytic. I still don't know my opinion about that.
About caring. I
that's
think
interesting.
We're trapped in the Thunderdome right now. There's no exit.
You mentioned this latent theme of infantilization. Is there some type of analogy we could draw here between the erosion of lowercase d democracy this kind of punitive parental figure.
And in somehow, maybe I'm going to do like too much of a stretch here, but could you say that all that crisis with masculinity is like a part of that? It's like, as a man, you want, there's like this idea of you need to take care of yourself all the time, and that's why there's like a big like resurgence of the right in men. I think, I don't know the in women. I just like thinking the gamer incel thing. I feel there's like that thing there, that bold, that ebulates or something. Do that make sense? A lot of
and treating individual subjects or participants in democratic society as infants.
There's this essay by Kant called What is Enlightenment? And people don't read it anymore because he talks about how important it is for people to reach maturity, to become citizens of a democracy. And, you can see like all of these hyper-liberal academics who want to decolonize everything just like freaking out about this essay. Like, what? That's so normative. Like, who wants to be mature? Maturity is really like oppressive, and you have to, he's gatekeeping reason. Like, I just, when I read it, I'm just like, I just hear everyone objecting to it now. I'm like, no one's reading it. I love this essay because I value reason. I value rationality. But you can see all these like, we need to decolonize adulthood. We need to decolonize reason.
No one says that though. I understand.
Feelings and vibes and all this. But this started like in the 80s and 90s when I was in graduate school already. Like people were like, that's so heteropatriarchal normative. That because Foucault actually, my shibboleth actually wrote a counter essay against Kant. And so you have this idea that maturity is normative. Maturity gives you this.
Oh yeah, Foucault did that.
People, if you're immature, you can't participate.
I'm happy to be French because there's a lot of like great sociologists and like philosophy that's like it was written in French, so it's like to the source.
And so what we've had in this like liberal reaction against the Enlightenment is the sacralization of immaturity and polymorphous perversity, which means that you are just a surface of feelings. Like everyone loved to live for a while, where you're just a surface of feelings and vibes. And if you're like vibing wrong with something, you're having like a non-dialectical relationship with the other, whatever they say. But there's no differentiation. Sorry, I can't stop making fun of them. But there's no differentiation. You're like an egg. And I really feel like a lot of these young people today and living online, you're literally the egg avatar. Like, your skin is very fragile.
They literally make memes of this. They call it the body without organs, and it's a character of an egg. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the delusion thing. But then we have like we have Tumblr and older forms of social media, Instagram now, TikTok, everything else, taking that body without organs and forgetting about it, but using its principles to say that it's better to be this undifferentiated egg-like organism that has
I don't understand that thing.
or vibrating with the world. And part of the thing about
But why are you vibrating to the world? What does that mean? It's like, what is there like in their idea that there's only one way to vibrate, and it's to be a communist or something? I don't understand what they mean by like vibrating. Do the left like are saying like there's only one way you should vibrate to the world, and if you're not, it's because of like the dialectism concept of communists or whatever? But it's like, so they're saying, is there one truth? I don't know what I'm saying.
I think it's really important
eggs.
that nobody wants everyone thinks it's very normative, is human beings are born in a very egg-like way. We're not differentiated. And we psychologically have to learn about our genitals. We have to learn about control of our bodies, literally controlling our spine, but also control the sphincter.
That's interesting, but like, I don't get that part.
sur sa traction intégrale pour vous donner confiance sur toutes les routes. Obtenez un boni de $500 pendant l'événement. Comptez sur Kia. Kia, du mouvement vient l'inspiration.
Okay, we are about to create the brand new game.
control of all the orifices, in fact. And all the orifices give us so much pleasure. In the beginning, you cry, you get the boob, you poop, it's kind of fun. And then you learn, like, you can't poop here. Every time you cry, you're not getting the boob anymore. You have to accede to the world in a different way. Children learn through orality, but I
Oh,
feel like
she's psychoanalytics.
the egg and the egg avatar is all about like non-differentiation and celebrating like genital immaturity. Genital maturity also makes us have to confront our mortality. It makes us confront our limits and our bodily limits. When you and I have participated in political movements and leftist spaces, don't you feel like sometimes you're in a room with like a lot of really fragile eggs who can't deal with actual confrontation or contradiction because if they bump up against each other, they think they're going to crack.
Right.
And that's just not a way to relate to the
Yeah.
world. The difficulty of the world right now, the challenges that we're
But
facing.
like, okay, she explaining why the leftists are like they're snowflakes, why they're like so like you say something that contradicts themselves and they break. But like, I just don't understand what is the link there. Is that the way they see people and their ideologies is too like it's too fragile? Even if there's a balance, the balance is like really fragile, and they're trying to defend that balance
that we need to have with regard to communication can't be adjudicated by a bunch of eggs in a room worried about cracking each other. Oh, wow. And you know what? Compared with these eggs, Donald Trump as like angry, happy baby seems to be a relief.
I've heard you use the phrase before,
Yeah,
the tyranny
I
of
understand.
affect. What is the tyranny of affect?
Tyranny of affect.
And affect theory has to do with a kind of rationalization
Affect theory,
of
what's that?
feeling. And the whole question of affect is that it's not, they like to say, the affect theory people, that it's not individual, it's in the room, it's collective, it is infectious, but this, non-individualized, non-communicative, non-irrational feeling is something that seems to justify a certain kind of behavior, justify a certain kind of attitude towards the other, towards objectivity. And so it's to say
Okay,
that
I'm not sure if I understood that correctly, but basically, affect theory is about everyone gets socialized into a specific way to get through your own emotion. It's not because you're living the happiness that you're going to act upon the happiness the same way. And I think what she's saying is that because you get socialized in that way, you cannot like really say it's bad to be that way.
we share an affect, but we don't share an objective world that we can describe, which
Right.
is like the principle of physics, right? But you and I have this feeling, and we're in the vibes world. I do think vibes are important because I think, like, when you look at the austerity of certain kinds of hyper-rational people in my profession, it's really frightening how disconnected they are from affect. But affect is important, but it's not the end-all and be-all of intersubjectivity. It's good to know where I end and you begin.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like in the affect vibe world, it's just like, let's just
Affect
vibe
vibe
together. Have
world.
you ever seen like Gen Zers talk? They're like this. They just nod. We're doing it right now. I'm making you do it.
I think that's
And
a bit.
this, like,
That's a bit. It's too simple.
Consent or assent to things that actually has no space for skepticism, for mutual recognition, maybe for my rejection of your ideas, but our shared reality says we have to confront certain struggles in the world. We have to confront physics, gravity. We share.
But
a
behind
physical
rationality,
world.
there's
We share an
always
economic
emotion
world of growing
somehow.
inequality.
One and the
We
other goes
share a
together,
world
you know?
where
You cannot
corruption
not have the vibes
is
without the
name of
thoughts.
the game. But we can't name any of these things if we're only vibing. And if I don't have any boundaries with regard to my assent, and I'm afraid
And those
to
vibes
contradict.
are just a thing. It's like signaling you to be able to rationalize it. A vibe, you understand it without having the thought, but I think that's where the work is. It's like, okay, well, there's this vibe here, like she said. I don't know why she used the word vibe. I feel that's a bit like, it makes it, vibes. It's like, okay, well, there's vibes here. What do we mean like by that vibes? Why is that vibe like important to share? And that's where the rationality like needs to come in, right?
Your dissent.
It's more like shows you something
from you, because then we will be cut off. Our egg-like connection will be broken. Then we can't actually reach mutually beneficial conclusions. We can't have collectivity or solidarity if all we have is our vibes and affect.
Well, of course, just that is not enough. It's like
there's, I guess, the similarity between.
I'm the egg. That's why I'm the egg. I'm the egg. I'm getting all destroyed.
Theories within the academy
owning the libs
that seem to masquerade as analysis, but actually create a block or create this undifferentiated space. There's a generation of young people, myself included, that were introduced to maybe the secondary and tertiary sources, but never actually got that education of the primary sources, the canon. Most of what we were taught was critiquing or debunking ideas that came before. And I think that goes a long way to explain some of the illiberal beliefs that have emerged in campus politics right now. How do you explain this rise of illiberal beliefs that's happened in the last few years?
I keep going back to this idea of the counterculturalists winning, in the institutions, and they succeeded. They became professors. They were very oppositional. There was a cultural break within the professoriate where
this is your brain when you're struggling to focus.
When was that? When did the counterculture got into 90s?
This younger generation that were emerging in the 70s were very sure of themselves and their rectitude, because the older generation wore tweed and, suits, and they were wearing jeans and listening to rock and roll. Like, there was a huge cultural break between the great, the silent generation and the boomers taking over academia, and they had a crusading
We're still in Punch? Oh, really? Yeah, I keep forgetting changing the thing. I'll change it. I keep forgetting. That's something. Why can't I have a little AI that just knows when I change category for my two viewers? That could be really cool.
Like, we're not.
Set game, just chatting. I put it. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't have comments. I need to look at how do I
racist.
Make changing the comments.
The Vietnam War. We're anti-imperialist. They were maybe led by, their thought leader was Edward Said, Raymond Williams, people who were actually erudite. And then you have this generation of boomer cultural studies people who are like, you know what? We reject the canon. We come in with a political...
But how can you say those things are not affects? How can you say those movements are all based upon rationality? I feel like all those movements are started with vibes. The vibes of being a punk, the vibes of being a boomer, the vibes of being a hippie. It's like all those little subculture that became the academia afterwards started with vibes first. Then it got rationalized into actual thoughts. So it's like when she says oh, Gen X or just Gen Z are just stuck in affects and vibes. I feel it's just because of the space we are at our age. We are still 20. We're still rising to adulthood. I think with all those vibes, it's the maturity is going to come forward and what it's going to mean into actual rationalities. And the leftists, again, that type of leftist, I feel is a bit older than us. I feel Gen Zers with all that Andrew Tate stuff, we're more mature. I think to ourselves. I think not everyone. Okay, and they still love to be drama queens, okay?
Mission, and we are successful
Does that
in
make
academia.
sense?
And
I don't know what I'm
so
saying.
we are teaching the new young people.
But you see, I feel
that's
vibes. That's vibes. Then
a enlightened field of knowledge.
It depends.
And we tell them
it depends. I'm just saying a broad spectrum. Do you think that 5 years ago the majority of leftists that were 20 were more? I think they were more snowflakes. The whole era of cancel culture and snowflakes is like when Trump started. Now we're like 10 years later. You know what I mean? I think it changed how the left saw themselves. I think it's I don't know if it's the right word, but anachronistic to say the left is the same left as when we have like SJWs and stuff like that. So it's like I've always been around. Yeah, but like I feel 10 years ago the snowflakes were really, we didn't really know how to deal with them. But like I think it's a bad way to look at it too. What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm trying to find the ideal, like what the left represents. I think we're like slowly trying to get away from those snowflakes, because 10 years ago I actually believe that it was kind of like because of internet and the emotion it bring, it kind of like, I don't think we're at the same eggshells, you know.
You don't have to read the canon anymore because
Right.
it's heteropatriarchal, normative, and we.
You see, I think people that talk like that are like, it's those old SJWs. The left and the right were completely switched like 20 years ago. Yeah, I'm not even. No, okay, I'm talking about cultures here. I'm not talking 20 years ago. 20 years ago is another ballpark. I'm talking like 5 years ago, and specifically the internet part. I'm talking about how politics was on the internet, and how that internet got into the media afterwards, and how the media portrayed the left, and how it kind of like actually the worst people that were like that. We talk back to that care, that like performative care. Like the thing about the left and right is that they are fluid. Yeah, I know. And then blew up everything on the internet. Yeah.
Can explore our
VC?
feelings
No.
about
I'm watching
stars.
this.
We can explore our relationship to popular culture. There really was a cultural revolution within academia.
I'm not here. I'm not.
Yeah. And in that cultural revolution, there was a.
I'm scared to get broken by you, Percy.
Fervor that these was increasingly successful.
No talk on this in VC. No
cultural studies.
No
types were wielding.
I'm watching this.
Like
I'm reacting to this more than I wanting a second conversation about like how do we define culture in politics. What do you mean? What do you mean? Look, if we go in VC, we're going to talk about other stuff. I want to stick in the conversation. That's the thing. Look, I don't want to educate you. I won't break you. I know. I was kidding. Unless it's in bed.
Red Guard, like you read Shakespeare, you're a reactionary. I'm actually like not successful cultural studies types were wielding like a Red Guard, like you read Shakespeare, you're a reactionary. I'm actually like not the biggest Shakespeare fan, but let's say you read Marcel Proust, you like Samuel Beckett, you must be a reactionary because I just watch TV, or I love Survivor. I've written a book about Madonna. I want to read Lost. Like there was an oppositionality and an antagonism that then created, I think, this like crusading idea that transmits to younger people. Like we're in a seminar, but we're actually on a crusade to destroy power.
War.
The way that people use that.
War.
Like,
I didn't mean it. I think today too, the politics it became like so much as those vibes, those affect, because it became so much of like how do some people in politics get meaning out of their life. That's why she's saying like there's like a crusade or something. I feel it's just people are like they're like, oh, time to go only war against the right.
Power. That really does come from Foucault. I'm sure you heard about this.
Yeah.
And it's like power is this transhistorical meta thing that.
That's what I was going to ask, is where do they think it comes from?
Where do they think power comes from?
Yeah.
Normativity.
Okay.
What?
Or where do they think power comes? Like heteropatriarchal norms, the state, organizations. Like this animus against bureaucracy that Trump is exercising really has like deep roots in the libertarianism of left and right. that realized itself through the past 50 years.
Wait.
So you have to distrust the man. You know, the hippies said, don't trust anyone over 30, distrust the man. Like, we've created this kind of antagonism that will say everything about power except capital, and will say everything about power's exercise over us except exploitation.
Les vadrouilles ordinaires vous épuisent? Essayez la super vadrouille.
Yeah, well, no, that's another problem. It's like that hypervigilance. It's like there's like hypervigilance with power or something like that, right? Or domination. They see domination everywhere, and they blow it out of proportions. That's like hypervigilance, but just in politics, right? It's like, you know, when someone is like super anxious, they're going to go into like a social interaction and see all the little details, and those little details are going to be so big that now all the interaction becomes just a stressful situation. In a way, I feel like the leftist she's talking about, that's like, I think it's more like 5 years ago. But I don't know. I've been not really paying attention. I've just seen people at my school. It's like, I feel now it's just like that same mentality. Like, you go into politics and you're like hyper vigilant, and all the little details are kind of exploded. It's like, I think there's still a detail of domination in those like dynamics, but I think that domination is not as big as like some people are going to fight about.
For the
Does that make sense?
It's like bureaucracy and institutions waste.
It's like saying there's no domination is dumb. At the same time, like the left has kind of exploded it. It's like a nervous girl going into like a social interaction, and she just think everyone hates her, and like, because all the little details is like seeing so big for nothing.
Waste money for the left liberals who, you know, come out of the Coldian school and also hate bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is about, you know, standardization, alienation, and discipline.
Yeah.
You mentioned before the boomer left.
And the consequences of seeing a world like that, right? Now bureaucracy became that big power of domination, you know, because you get stuck to follow the rules of that system so strictly.
Politics that emerges around the 1968 generation, in which I would argue that.
And also, I don't know, I never seen like any maybe like I'm just not like know enough, but like any leftists also understanding the necessities of some of those systems. Like, it's fine to critic and know how they're bad, but at the same time, it's like, is there like some necessity to some of those things? It's like bureaucracy. It's like, where is the limit of the necessities there? Like, is cutting so much like actually like
left-wing ideas become kind of infused or woven into this kind of libertarianism?
Yeah.
What are some of the origins of that belief system? Because what it seems to have brought now is a kind of left politics that advocates for small business, which seems to be entirely ineffective.
There was a book called Small is Beautiful,
Right.
which was all about this kind of like hippie formations of communes versus organizations. It also comes out of, you know, this critique of organizations that actually wasn't business management. You know, the organization man was considered, you know, this guy went to work every day, was a conformist. It was part of the anti-conformity of that boomer left, thinking that, you know, there are oppressive organizations, and then there's this
pink or purple
small business, small scale, you know, Brooklyn rooftop farming thing that can save the world, right? Just don't join any large organizations. And and the other thing that I'm really fascinated by, and is part of the trauma book too, is that among second wave feminists, the consciousness raising group was so
Surrey Rose Quartz or Obsidian
critical and sort of turning like discontented housewives into feminists, right? And there was this mythical like aha moment where you'd be sharing with your girlfriends, and suddenly you're like, aha, that's power. You know, I'm being taught all of these things, and I need to liberate myself from my domestic sphere and burn my bra and go out and experiment sexually and emotionally with other people, not my husband or my children. And so this kind of instantaneous feeling of enlightenment is better than the actual hard work of reason upon which the Enlightenment is based, which is, maturity, right? So you had second wave feminists telling women like, it's okay to regress, and because you're gonna free yourself from all these norms. The other thing that was happening in the 70s was
That's interesting. That's interesting. Like the idea of maturity. I like that. It's like even they're like offering a second option, and they're making it like it's the end of it. There's not more work than just like she said. And maybe that's why there's an appeal to younger people, right? That like philosophy. Because it's like it represents like even like the position they are right now. They're already like trying to mature themselves as adult, and there's like an politic ideology that also confirm that direction kind of is like they're maturing themselves, and like there's a political ideology that kind of does the same as how they're living their own adult life. You know what I mean?
This revival of mind cure thought and
New Age is reason.
And one of the things that people forget about
that's really interesting too, because like there's a lot of like sociology, like cultural thing there that which is really cool, because like I'm thinking about like all those little like culture from music, and like how the people that were inside those music kind of grew up off. I think it's interesting. Like now it's New Age. That anti-conformity from the hippies, that's actually really interesting from the boomers. It's like,
the hippies was that they really were sure that we were transitioning from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius.
The what?
What?
Okay.
The age of Pisces. Okay. The age of Pisces was...
Let people have fun, though.
Age was the age of Christ and disciplinarity, and sometime in the 60s, end of the 20th century, you guys
might be adults and mature, but you guys are fun.
You got to know these things, Joshua.
No, it's cool.
We were changing from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, and in the age of Aquarius, it's the age of electricity, of connectivity, and eventually, like even the internet. And so
I was
then we
educated in Marxism, where it's these long, painful, boring equations that just rationally prove the extraction of surplus value. This sounds fucking insane. What are we talking about? We're talking about like constellations, or like
astrology. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know how the calendar
no
goes,
fun
like,
allowed.
Aquarius.
No fun to have
I've never cared to learn this stuff.
No fun to have absurdity.
December, January is Pisces, and then we move to I don't know where are we now. Aquarius is like February, and Aquarius is about like loving and communication, and we're going to reach this alternative enlightenment. It's an alternative. Aquarius offers us an alternative.
This guy seems so open-minded,
reason,
and willing to learn new stuff.
Genital maturity.
No, because it's like, ooh, astrology is so weird, and there's no science behind it. It's all sorcery. So it's like there's no, it's silly. It's silly. No fun allowed. Only real rationality, like Christianity.
To even,
sarcasm?
Normative forms of intersubjectivity, because we're just going to all connect.
Wait, he's supposed to be an artist. I think this guy, he went to, like, art school. What do you think art is? What do you think art movement is? The thing is, she isn't saying she believes in astrology, just pointing out its effect. Oh yeah, I know. I just I was pointing out the reaction out of like, ooh, what is astrology? It's so silly. I was just pointing that reaction. I wasn't pointing like what she's saying. Even her, she was like, ooh, silly. Who knows? Makes no sense, right? Oh, piss keys.
Well,
I know. She's trying to say like, oh, there's the new ideal that came from those new spiritualities.
The internet, this new community.
Because she's saying like that ideal of enlightenment. There's still roots in politics too, and like they're saying like, oh, where do we get our ideals from?
That was sort of the structure of the internet. At the bottom of the California ideology is all about this instantaneous transformation.
Yeah.
Like no effort necessary for the revolution. It's just going to happen. And, I'm sure that...
Fast food! America first!
We don't believe
fast food in our alignments.
This was, I think, their thinking. And when I look at the world that they've given us, there are um, all these departments that have, in anthropology especially, that have decolonizing the curriculum in them. Like our voluntary, we are so enlightened that we're going to go through the entire mass of human history. And also human endeavor, and just decolonize things one by one, so that when we click a little button, they'll be enlightened. Like this is colonial thought. We click a button, now it's decolonized. It's voluntarist. It's
But that's so weird. It's like they don't understand how the past is always in us. Well, that was in the 70s, so maybe it wasn't the same time. But like, I feel today is like I cannot like just acknowledge the past is still in you all the time. Even if you're a new man, the past is still there.
And
it's
gestural and performative in a way that makes us feel better about
Which,
reading.
I agree that fast food alignment
or Margaret Mead,
dumb.
and
It's not
they
dumb.
had
It's
terrible prejudices and biases. They didn't take anti-bias training, and we're going to take the bias out of their work. So there's a kind of instantaneity that I'm talking about that's very similar to the culture of the internet. Like all of these things, have intellectual precedence. Like why do we want instantaneity so badly? It was this imagination that was already cultivated and created in the 60s and then the 70s, where you have this coming to you one day. It's like the red pill, black pill thing too. Like all you have to do is take a pill, really. You don't have to like think anything through.
It's that fast food
and
thing.
You never have to change
everything at your
fingertips after you've taken the pill.
Even alignments.
You've mentioned the Enlightenment a few times. Some of the ideologies that I see rising, coming into prominence in the last few years, include theocracy, literally monarchy. People make arguments for things that are analogous to the caste system.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have a left that rejects the Enlightenment.
Yeah.
Because it's somehow responsible for racism, colonialism, the tragedies of history, has all of this baggage that comes along with it.
Right.
How should the left understand its relationship to the Enlightenment?
For better or worse, the idea that all human beings are created equal, that reason and scientific method, replicable through experimentation and documented through a kind of mathematical, empirical observation of the world that other people can follow with regard to my logic, this kind of anti-mystical grounding, anti-religious, anti-propagandistic, anti-authoritarian idea of a subject who could engage with others in the world through reason, not mysticism, not subjugation. That idea, for better or worse, was hatched in the 17th and 18th centuries in Europe. There are material reasons for this. The bourgeoisie created enough leisure that there was enough people who were able to engage in philosophical thinking outside of the tutelage of the monarchs and the church. They were able to hide, beginning with Galileo, they were persecuted by the church. And then by the 17th century in France, Descartes was able
That's interesting how to see reason in science, right? And how like some thoughts came about.
Deist cast to what he was really pioneering, which was the scientific method. And this moment, precipitates.
I understand the scientific method and how it could be like the NL, but like I don't understand. It doesn't really fit with our nature as human. It's like it's not a tool for our brains. It's like our brains, are made to like acknowledge more of that religious stuff, in my opinion, and that mysticism. And it feels like to get to that reason, that perfect reason, it's too hard. Even biases, but I don't know.
Violent overthrow of feudalism.
I don't even know if she's saying that.
In France, and also the violent overthrow of the British Empire in the United States. This idea that all human beings are created equal, and that systems of oppression and belief are meant to enslave people in a state of what Kant called permanent tutelage.
It's like
that we should all be freeing ourselves from this state of tutelage in order to be able to enjoy and participate in human progress and endeavor, which means the emancipation of the majority of human beings from both want, oppression, and exploitation. That begins, for better or worse, as a form of thought in Europe. We can stamp our feet and say, well, there are other forms of enlightenment. There are, what the fuck happened? But the scientific method that gave us electricity, that gave us the buildings, the possibility of building buildings this high,
he gave us
urbanization,
how to destroy the planet pretty well, and now no one thinks, and now if other people use science to say they have the better like options. What if science can like back two ways?
This
what happens there? How do you reason when there's two truth? What do you do there? What do you do there when there's two truths? It's like opposite truth. The two works. The two makes sense. The two has balance. What do we do there? I think that's.
Modernity was born.
Does that make sense?
In the 17th century.
Am I too mysticistic?
And there are many reasons we could think about this. That you could say that Protestantism and a certain form of, Jesuitical Catholicism was already on a secularizing trajectory.
Yes.
Right. So the thing now that people are rejecting, I think, is that in actuality, democratic forms and capitalism cannot coexist, and capitalism is eating democracy alive.
Right.
So a lot of young people, like my son, who's only grown up with the dysfunctional democracy, I think I saw the end of it. He'll say, like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Democracy doesn't work. This is not working. And they feel attracted to a kind of authoritarianism because the authoritarianism seems more obvious and naked exercise of power. Whereas, if you have people preaching to you about, let's use our reason together, and there's just all this fucking irrationality going on, especially in the left liberal spheres, then you just think, well, maybe we need to go back to strong top to bottom forms of
it's
rule,
more simple
because democracy
Let's work too.
is just hypocrisy to younger people. It's fallen down.
It's
There's nostalgia for authoritarianism. I can
too much
understand
friction.
that. The other thing is, pragmatically speaking,
Fascist,
organization
no
should
friction.
be more structured and authoritarian, because we're not going to be just like aggregated little eggs trying to take down the system that we live in, because it doesn't provide. Organization actually provides stability, transmissibility of knowledge. I feel like every time there's a new organizational fervor on the left, we keep repeating the same mistakes, which were already described in that Joe Freeman article called The Tyranny of Structurelessness.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, you should really read it. And it's about how the women's movement ate itself up in the 1970s, where one day you're working for women's liberation, and the next day you're being canceled by a group of women who think that you're too male identified, or you're not a loyal enough member of the sisterhood. And every single left organization that I've seen comes to this point at some point where it becomes a purity politics. And I think it is the end point of a kind of crypto religiosity. What puts that down is highly structured organizations, extremely centralized exercise of power. And then you say it's a dictatorship. We listen to your complaints, but there's no voting involved. So I think young people are legitimately questioning how democracy can function in a country where capitalism just eats democracy alive. Right now, the fact that Elon Musk has $500 billion at his disposal means that he has a weapon. It's like he has a nuclear weapon, and then the 330 million rest of us have sticks. And this is the thing about caring, is that at some point we have to get out of the humid, sentimental ideas about caring for helpless things and helpless people even, and think about how to build organizations with lasting power.
Management.
Confront the obscene accumulation of wealth that's taking place today. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think that if you organized a protest now that really was powerful, I'm going to sound too conspiratorial, but the powers that will be, they'll come. I'll put that down, either through infiltration, through physical threats. So there hasn't been a threatening figure like that since Bernie, and they put him down. They put down that movement really quickly. The other thing about the Enlightenment is that once you have an articulated reasoned, rational analysis of political economy, of the unconscious, of mental health, of childhood, of eroticism, of exploitation, it's very hard to silence it. Once it's been written, once it's been communicated, if you want to regress to irrationality, you have to fight really hard to repress the truth that is out there.
Damn.
And so,
That's cool.
Freud wrote, the voice of reason is quiet, but it will not be silenced.
Freud.
And I feel like all the irrationality of liberalism is being punished by Trump. You can't be that stupid.
If you build yourself a structure that's like rational enough, the irrationality is going to be hard to maintain. You know, once your little pretty garden is rational enough, the little irrationalities that are like that could be annoying are going to be like harder to
irrational
make
and
big.
try to fool people as much as they did without some kind of karmic revenge, because there is I think, reason that we all share. This is the Enlightenment speaking. We all have a capacity to reason. We all share it. You can suppress it. You can
everyone has a seed inside of them.
You can join a cult. You can join Curtis Yarvin in his Nostalgia for Monarchy. But we all have a sense of logic.
League of Legends. I think we all need to play League of
and
Legends.
It will at some point explode. It will at some point react against irrationality, either violently, effectively, or ineffectively if it's not organized. But this was also the such an important point for Marx, for Freud, for Kant, for the thinkers of the Enlightenment, which is that human beings are born equal, not because of who they are, but because of their shared capacity for reason.
Right.
Even the caveman who built, who hunted or who built something, who tamed domesticated animals, who found tribal organizations that allowed for his clan to survive or her clan to survive, they had to use reason at some point to become, we as a species had to use our minds at some point to become the top predators of the earth, because we are physically very weak, but we are mentally very strong. And God and tyrants and capitalism would like to take that away from us. But they can't really, because the secret has been broken.
This kind of irrationality that has become, I think, prominent and mainstream on the left, I find this to be in contradiction with overcoming the market form of organization in society, that if one was to go about, let's say, economic planning or even high-speed rail, something like
I'm going to pause here because I need to go. I need to go work. But that was really interesting, and I enjoyed this part of the stream a lot. I love this. Cringe!